El Santo, one of the biggest national heroes in the history of wrestling, even bigger in Mexico than Baba was in Japan, was honored with a show marking the 15th anniversary of his death in Mexico last week. I want to pause there real quick. Somebody is that big of an icon in your country that you've basically made a holiday after them. 15 years since his death. Like,
yeah, I was just say 15 years is a big number too.
Yeah, like they were still doing it over a decade and a half after. That's like, I mean, obviously he was a wrestler, not a civil rights icon. But that's like here in America, we have Martin Luther King Day to honor the day he died. Like that's huge. Like a wrestler is that big a deal. But despite
wrestler, that's not Bill Mascaris, by the way.
Yeah, right. Well, Bill Mascaris was like, I don't know, he maybe number 2, I'd say. Like El Santo was basically like a god in Mexico. I mean, they talk about it here where he was even bigger in Mexico than Baba was in Japan. Like he like started it all, I think, like as far as like cultural lucha icons. He was freaking everywhere.
Well, you gotta remember Lucha Libre is like a religion in Mexico.
Oh yeah. Well, he's so famous.
I mean, they take that as serious as like here in America we do football.
Right. Well, he was so huge in Mexico after even all these decades after his death. He was in that movie Coco.
Is that who that was? I want to go on record, by the way, and say that's one of the greatest Pixar movies ever made.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I loved it. But yeah, you remember they actually say they're like El Santo, like when he walks up. Like obviously, like anybody who hasn't seen the movie,
he walks up. While.
Yeah, he's in the afterlife. He's got he's all skeleton except for his cape and his mask. And
that's who it is.
Yeah, and he like walks up with a girl on his arm, and they're like, El Santo, come right this way. And I'm like, holy crap! Like that's pretty cool. But
so he's literally bigger than Day of the Dead there, which is a huge thing in Mexico, by the way.
Yep. Well, despite not being an officially recognized holiday, the day of El Santo's death is a big deal nationwide every year. CMLL held a big ceremony that was attended by several thousand fans and all 10 of Santos' sons. God dang, 10 sons. He was busy.
But not one of them was wrestling, I bet.
There was one named El Hijo del Santo that he was kind of big, but people said he was not as nice as his father. He was kind of, he had the air.
Richard?
Yeah. Oh, it was one of those. Well, I'm El Santo's son, so therefore give me everything. And they're like, yeah, you're not your dad, dude. But of course, this was with this being wrestling, they still turned it into an angle. When El Hijo del Santo, who I just mentioned, was shown visiting his father's tomb, he was attacked by Scorpio Jr. and set up a feud with him. Oh, God. I can't even imagine.
That's kind of gross.